Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is the Paddock podcast, and joining me for the first time in a little while, me and you've been on a video, is Ronaldo Brown.
It's not been, do you know, I don't know if many of the people watching will even remember the last time we've been on one, but it's usually quite a special video on the channel, I reckon.
Every video
non-biased
that you're on is special, Ronnie.
That.
But yeah,
Tier 1.
Tier 1, mate. We need to bring back the Tier 1, right? The Tier 1 is returning. If you don't know what the Tier 1 podcast is, it's basically the best podcast on this channel where me and Ronaldo here chat to the creme de la creme of the journalism world. Do you know what? I was watching Sky Sports yesterday and you had their like journalism or journalists show when there were a couple of journalists and you had Henry Winter and Darren Lewis.
And you're like, we had them first.
We had both of them on. We've had Romano, Jamie Jackson, Simon Peach. Who else have we had?
You said Romano, haven't you?
Said Romano.
I feel like we're the only ones.
We had Mohamed Bouhafsi.
Yeah, it was the only ones in the football sphere to have Mohamed Bouhafsi.
We had Bouhafsi before he stopped doing football stuff, and now he's like some daytime TV presenter in France, isn't he? But we had him on, man. We had all of them on here, and we're going to start having them all on again once we get towards the sort of the transfer window. So don't worry about that if you've missed your fill of Tier 1 transfer podcast. What have you been up to? Did you watch the football over the weekend?
Yes, I did. I missed the Liverpool game though.
It was almost funny. If it weren't for the fact it was the Scousers, I would have laughed, but it's annoying. If it had been like Spurs and almost anyone else, it would have been amusing. But because it was Liverpool, I was annoyed.
To concede the losing goal the way that Tottenham did it should be like ridiculous news. It should be surprising. It should be like, what just happened? But it's crazy that something like that almost seemed normalised because it was Spurs.
It does, doesn't it? It's like,
do you know what I mean? It seems
like the most. I think Gary Neville said it's the most Spurs thing ever or whatever. It's like it is proper Spursy.
It is very Spursy.
To get a 94th minute equaliser and still lose, like, and I wouldn't mind. There was only like 96 minutes left on the clock. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like there was. So sometimes on VAR and all that rest of it, and you have like 10 minutes, but they scored with like 90 seconds left to go. So you just think, right, and I wouldn't mind. They scored, Spurs, and conceded almost straight away.
It's not. It's also the way that the game obviously went. The journey of the game is going 3-0 down.
Yeah.
And then basically being out of it, being shocking for the first 30 minutes from what I'm hearing from the highlights.
I had it on. I was after the game when it Hotel Football and it was on.
And then you exert that much energy to get back into the game. So you're thinking mentally, you're on a rise, you're on a rise, and then there's a crash. And then you got Richarlison waving his one finger.
That guy's had no luck. Do you know this season, right?
Yeah.
He's not scored. Is that his first Premier League goal?
First Premier League goal since he signed for Spurs.
So he's had 2 Premier League goals disallowed, right, for Spurs. And on both of them, he celebrated like a madman. Like he went shirt off in the crowd.
Weghorst it.
Yeah, like proper Weghorst it. He did it. He's like Weghorst stroke Diogo Dalot. Remember Dalot at Leeds where he had like 5 celebrations?
Oh yeah, because he had them all saved up when he finally scored.
Yeah, the drink, the check my pulse. What else was there? There was something else. Was it the ear thing? I think he did. Can't remember, but he did about 5. The handshake with Anthony.
Yeah, the first
the kiss. I think
that first goal thing with Dalot is actually quite interesting because he's seen. I think we've realised it's not the case as a more progressive attacking fullback than Wan-Bissaka. But I think in their United careers, I think Wan-Bissaka actually has more goals and assists than him.
Yeah. I think,
which is insane.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, we could check, but
check that.
I'm pretty sure you're right because
if I'm not wrong, Wan-Bissaka has more goals and assists combined than Dalot.
I remember seeing that as a stat because you can remember. I don't remember many of Wan-Bissaka's goals. I remember he got one against
Newcastle.
That was a goal, that as well, wasn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like he absolutely smashed it. I'm trying to find it now.
It's because he's become more of a talking point because I've recently seen an interview from Wan-Bissaka as well the last couple of days and he doesn't do interviews at all.
No, he does not do interviews.
No, he did, and he literally just gave like the most mundane answers going. He never I don't think you could ever see someone a little more relaxed than Wan-Bissaka. You can kind of get a little glimpse into his personality or what he shows of his personality.
I feel a bit for him though. Do you remember the one he did after Aston Villa? The interview he did.
Yeah. And he messed it up and I feel like they protected him.
Yeah, I do because he did an interview, didn't he? For after the Villa game. And United won 2-1, I think. And they said to him, like, what's the what do you think of the goal? the Villa goal, like what went wrong for the Villa goal, and he went like, which Villa goal? And they were like, there's only been one.
The one that he scored.
Yeah, and he went, oh right, okay. So actually, oh yeah, but this is all sorts of everything, and some of this is like the low has got.
If you just do stats by club, then you can see it. But in the meantime,
go on.
When we were talking about the fixtures that happened over the weekend, I was at the Villa. I was at the Villa game.
You was at the Villa game, yes, me too.
I was in the nosebleeds.
Was you? What was it like? My eyesight's terrible.
I must have been about 3 rows from the top.
Really?
Yeah.
No, it's not good to me. Like, I'm terrible. My eyesight is terrible. So like, well, I used to sit almost like right near the front of the J stand, and for the second, right near one end, right for one end I'm all right when we were attacking, but for the other end I'd be like, what's going on here? Who's that? Who scored?
Yeah, it's more like trying to work out certain things, and then there was like someone that was like 6'4" in front of me. I ain't the tallest guy, so it was a little bit of a problem.
It is right,
but it was.
Go on.
But in terms of what I actually thought about the game itself, it was. I thought we played some really, really good football at times. We are showing that though in a lot of games where it's not sustained for a full 90 minutes. It's almost like we're showing bits and spurts, and I'm still quite excited to see what can happen if we kind of maintain those kind of performances over a 90 consistently. Because that's why
yeah, I know what you mean, man. Because I was thinking about it like, the other day, like how many goals do we work where you see the ball sort of move forward and you think like we've actually played the way that Eric Ten Hag's trying to get us to play to get this goal.
Sometimes, you know a lot of transitional goals, but not like...
It's not like that regular though. Do you know what I mean? And you can see it sometimes and you think that's what he's trying to do. And I still feel like he's not quite there yet.
It's getting there. That's what concerns me about.
I mean, I don't mean Eric Ten Hag's not. Yeah. I mean, we're not playing the way he fully wants us to play. That's the point I'm making.
That's what concerns me about the owner situation that we've got going on at the moment. Because I'm looking at it thinking, realistically, you would have wanted it to kind of be finalised right now, because like we can have some sort of structure going into the transfer window. Because I'm going to keep banging on about the fact that I think the transfer window that's coming up is beyond huge, because Newcastle obviously look like they're ascending.
Yeah.
Chelsea and Liverpool are going to be back to somewhat near their best next season.
Yeah.
City will be as strong as ever. Arsenal will likely be good again, as much as that hurts me to say. And we've shown great progress in a lot of areas from where we were last season. Ten Hag seems to be a manager capable of like bringing good things against United. But I think the recruitment in the summer is vital. I think this summer could either determine whether we go 2 steps forward and become somewhat contenders in every competition that we're playing in again, or we can go 2 steps back.
I think you're right. So I think you're spot on. I was just trying to. Find. I think it's Chris Winterburn who did the sort of thread, and he said he believes there's still serious hurdles for United to deal with ahead of this summer. And they said he talked about the Qatar takeover at the time. It looked like that's the most likely. I mean, that might still be the case. Sheikh Jassim and Sir Jim Ratcliffe, the main two. But he's talking about the fact we've left it so long that your target's already in place. It's going to take a few months for this deal to get done. So that might affect your summer transfer window. Yeah. And I agree with you. I think this summer is huge because in the past, what United have done, haven't we? We've gone big in one summer, done quite well, and then not followed it up. So, like, if you look at the perfect example, Jose in 2018, where we finished second, 19 points behind City, but I think we had 81 points. You look at it, 81 points is a decent return. Second in the league is a decent return. We have to invest or we have to spend money to catch City. City went out and got Riyad Mahrez. Yeah, so they've got stronger probably. I know they didn't get more points, but they've improved the squad. We went out, we got Fred, who the manager didn't fancy, Diogo Dalot, and Lee Grant. Now, I'm not knocking them lads, but were we ever going to catch City by doing that?
No, we was never going to do that. That's what I mean.
It's like you just no ambition, or you've not gone right. We're almost there now. If we went out and spent, instead of spending the 60 million or whatever we spent, if we spent another 60 on top of that, maybe we could get closer, or maybe we've got a chance of, if we went out and bought a DM as well as the players I've mentioned, or if we went out and got, another winger or whatever, any position you want to pick, because that's what you need to strengthen, not just when things are going badly, but when things are going quite well. We always did that.
That's what the best clubs do.
Yeah. Do you remember the transfer window we had in 2007, where we'd won the title, like wrestled it back from Chelsea. And we went out that summer. We got Anderson, who was, I think it was Golden Boy winner, Nane, Hargreaves and Tevez. Like, strong, and we won the Champions League that season and the league, and they all played a part. Like, you know, Hargreaves played a big part. People underrate him. Played a big part. Tevez obviously, you know, was pivotal. And Nani and Anderson, they weren't always starting, but they played, and they played in the final. They scored penalties in the final. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's what you do. You go out there, and City have done that. Like, City have bought one or two players who haven't quite worked out, like Claudio Bravo. You could argue maybe Calvin Phillips. You know, going back even further, ancient history now almost, but like Nolito or whatever, you know, players where you go, but they keep going and they get the players that do work out, and they add, even when you think, like with Jack Grealish, a lot of people saying, did he need Jack Grealish? Did he really need to spend 100 million on him? But this season, he's played a part in it.
Yeah, he develops. That's what structurally you got to account for. Players regressing, players possibly progressing as well. There's a lot of things. That's why the issues at United usually start from the owner, but it's having footballing people in footballing positions, as we've heard as the cliche for quite a while at United being a problem, is because when things are going well, you should still be reinforcing, and you got to look at it as Eriksen next season is going to be a year older, Casemiro is going to be a year older, and these are areas of the pitch that are so vital right now in the modern game. And then you got to look at it in areas where is that position elite enough for us to take to the next level. And obviously I know there's an issue with budget where you can't, it's not FIFA, you can't just go into a transfer window and just buy someone, a right back, a left back, a centre midfield. But there's ways that you can be clever. There's really good budget signings that fit the correct profiles nowadays, where you don't have to spend big dollar. And I think that's where United miss out on, and other clubs usually do better, because I think we talk about managers and we talk about systems and we talk about individuals. Obviously, good players will always matter because they'll make a difference. Obviously, football's fine margins, but I think we are going into an era that has a little bit more. It's a little bit more of about systems. It's a bit more of a systematic kind of generation where if you buy a really good player that fits the correct profile, it might be better off in a system than if you just buy a player that might look luxurious or whatever, but doesn't necessarily fit. So that's what I think United need to look towards, especially when you've got a manager like Ten Hag who has really obvious, clear philosophies and ideas.
Yeah.
Go out and look for players that fit what he's looking for in certain positions, rather than just thinking, what's the biggest and brightest name on the market?
We've been bad for it, haven't we? For buying the biggest and brightest names. Like, without any thought of the system or what the man, you know. Yeah. The prime example, probably Alexis Sanchez. He was just he's scoring goals. He scored loads of goals for Arsenal. He absolutely tore Matteo Darmian a new one when we played him at the Emirates. You know, we can get him. City want him. Let's get him. But then, if you'd have actually looked at him, and I remember chatting to a few people and said, he's not just sulking. He's in decline. Like, he's something's not right. He's not been playing well recently for Arsenal, and it's not. Everyone just assumed he was sulking. And I remember speaking to one or two, like, he worked for Football Whispers and did stats and stuff. Were like, there's something. This is a player who looks like he's on his way out. Yeah, exactly. And, do you know what I mean? Like, rather than just he's sulking, if you look, there's something deeper going on here where you might be getting to the end of the road with him because he's played a lot of football. And some players, you know, the sort of they start to sort of show the signs at late 20s. Well, not late 20s, 30 or whatever. Others it's 35 or whatever. But with him, it was sort of by the 30, 31, whatever. He was slowing down.
Yeah, slowing down.
And he's you know, his game had almost gone to, not completely gone to dogs. Obviously went to Inter and did a bit there, but in terms of Premier League, it's not happening. I've got to get some couple of questions here, because they both touch on the same subject. Juan Martinez, who's been a member of the Academy for 29 months, thanks for your support, Juan, says, if 72% of goalkeepers in the top 5 leagues have a better save percentage than David De Gea, can we please stop pretending David De Gea is a world-class shot stopper? And that also leads me to the next question as well, from Brian Casey, who's been a member for 3 months of the Academy. Thank you, Brian, and thank you, Juan, as well. Jay, if we were to replace De Gea, would you consider Emi Martinez as an option? I think he's a decent option, but never really linked with us in the media. So we'll start with the first one, about De Gea's shot stopping. Saying there that he's in the bottom quarter for save percentages in the league. Now, I just will add one thing before people start pointing it out. He's got more clean sheets than anyone else in the Premier League. Yeah. He's got 15. I think the nearest to him is Nick Pope with 13. So we can't fault the kid for the amount of clean sheets he gets. But we have conceded a lot of goals. 7 at Anfield, 6 at the Etihad, 4 at Brentford. It's not like you can just ignore that. So there's a bit of sort of balance there. What do you personally make of David De Gea's performances, and do you think that, sort of following on from what you mentioned earlier about having those top tier players, is he still top tier for you?
I've been one of De Gea's biggest fans over the years. I still think he's a club legend.
Yeah,
I think people can't take that away from him. I think the game's moved on from his style of keeper, and also obviously the stats are suggesting that his shot stopping ability has slowed down. I don't know whether sometimes people think his shot stopping is still as good as it was, because he still does do the on and off kind of, the spectacular save.
Yeah.
The save that kind of lives in the memory. So it makes it seem like it's great, because sometimes there's shots that look like he should save where he doesn't. But it's also a case of the fact that stats like that always have a loophole in it, because obviously you get save percentage is a weird one, because some keepers might have more shots against them.
Yeah.
Some keepers might have a lot less.
Yeah.
So then you've obviously got more intricate stats like expected goals against or whatever that are probably better indicators for how good of a shot stopper a keeper is. But I'm in agreement that it's not even about shot stopping really. I think for us to become the building up team that progresses through the thirds and is kind of better in the first phase in terms of when we're playing out, I don't think De Gea is ever going to be that guy. And obviously he shows signs of improvement occasionally, but there's never going to be that consistency there. I was actually watching Emi Martinez on the weekend.
Yeah.
And he was also criticised for being similar to De Gea, where he's a great shot stopper, he's huge, basically almost covers most of the goal by himself. He's a big, intimidating keeper that's good at saving shots usually. Emery's come in and made him a lot more ball playing than he were.
Yeah.
And I thought Emi Martinez's distribution on the weekend was very, very good.
Yeah.
For a keeper that gets criticised for the same as De Gea.
I think one thing I do like with Martinez, I'm not his biggest fan. I think at times he looks a little bit too all over the gaff, but I think he commands his area quite well, and he makes himself, like you talk about how big he is. He's not shy of getting to that ball when it's crossed in.
Yeah.
Like I remember when he beat Chelsea earlier on in the season. Well, it wasn't that long ago. I think it was about a month ago, or whatever. And I remember watching that, and it was 1-0 at the time. Yeah. And Chelsea was just trying to get crosses into the box, and he's getting everything. He was just getting everything, and eventually Villa went and got a second goal. Now, I've just got some stats, and I know stats can be sort of skewed, misleading or skewed and not to. But the one area where De Gea is in the bottom 3% is crosses stopped. Like his crosses stopped is really low. The amount of touches he takes is lower, and again that doesn't tell you the full story. But his actions outside the box is like in the bottom 1%. He's not a ball playing goalkeeper, and he doesn't really deal with crosses. That's not his thing. Now his clean sheet percentage is in the top. Well, he's at the top of the Premier League anyway, and he's in the he's one of the top keepers for that.
Sometimes
his save percentage is sort of. It's almost in the middle.
Yeah, I think.
Do you know what I mean?
It's crazy because
it's in the bottom third. Sorry, not in the middle.
Keepers get obviously Golden Glove for clean sheets.
Yeah.
When clean sheets is often seen as probably in my eyes a team stat, if anything.
Yeah.
Rather than keeper performance, because you've got someone like Edison that will probably always often be up there in terms of clean sheet percentage and clean sheets, because City dominate games. He doesn't really get much chances against him, much shots against him, so they'll get clean sheets naturally, especially because they've got really good defenders in the back. And then he'll end up getting Golden Glove without actually being a good performer, because honest to God, whenever I watch Edison City, I'm saying I can't recall many saves he makes. Yeah. Quite often, more often than not, I feel like when City concede a chance or a good chance and it's a shot on goal, it's a goal.
I think with Edison, I think you're right. It's similar thing to like.
I think he's a really below par.
I think with Edison, it's the sweeper element.
I think he's
almost like an extra. He's like a defender, isn't he?
I think he's an extra centre half, basically for their build up.
Pep likes, because obviously brought in Claudio Bravo to do that, and he was a disaster. But I agree. I think that. I mean, I don't think he's poor. I understand. I think he's overrated, perhaps as shot stopping. I remember when there was this debate going Edison or Alisson Becker. I take no pleasure in saying this, but I think Alisson's better. I think he's probably, for me, one of the top keepers in the Premier League in terms of the whole package. He commands his area. I know he can still have one in him now and again. Commands his area, decent at shot stopping and distribution is pretty good. But yeah, I think there's sort of flaws in every keeper's game. So what about the second part of the question, or the second question, the one that came in from Brian Kaiser? Would you replace him? If you would, who would it be? Who have you seen anyone? Because you do a lot of scouting for Steve. You watch a lot of football. Is there someone you look at and go, he could do a job for United?
The obvious one is Diogo Costa.
Yeah.
But the issue is with this keeper situation is it does matter, but a good keeper to replace him that's going to kind of fit the mould is going to be really expensive. Because Diogo Costa is going to cost in the region of around 50 plus mil probably, and that's going to heavily affect our budget elsewhere for outfield areas.
Yeah.
So there's going to be keepers out there that can do probably better, but it's about cost really, and that's why I think the window is so important, because how we're going to distribute the money around the positions of need is going to be quite difficult, and there almost needs to be a list system that says important to least.
Yeah, no. If you had that list system, then if you had the most important to the least, what would be your top 3 priorities?
Striker is number 1 priority.
100%.
I think second, we need a midfield partner for Casemiro, one of the Frenkie de Jong mould. Someone that can do the job of what Eriksen does, but not having to be carried as much physically. So like, when Eriksen doesn't play and Fred comes in, you see a huge difference in terms of the way that we control and build up and progress the ball. Like, it's like night and day. So we need an Eriksen type, but we do need better than him, because that's literally all Eriksen provides at the moment. He provides nothing off the ball, and his mobility is an issue. Especially, I don't think he very rarely does 90 minutes either.
No, he doesn't. He does take him.
Which is very interesting, because Eriksen was always a player that was seen as someone that doesn't really work loads, but if you look at his distance covered per game, he covers a lot of distance.
Nah, he does, man.
But I think it's more of the tempo he does it at. So that would be my second priority. And then it would be keeper.
So you got keeper first.
Then it would be keeper. I think right back has gone down to probably 4th option. And then if I was being greedy for a 5th option, I'd say that we need someone to be a bit of an understudy to Casemiro in the defensive midfield area.
I like that. I like
as well
someone to come in. We've been linked. Was it the lad at Southampton? Which is it? What's his name? Is it Lavia?
Lavia. But Lavia. This is the issue. Lavia's would cost, and I don't know. I know that City have a buyback clause on him.
Oh God.
As well.
They got the Manchester tax that they put on Sancho.
Probably.
What about the kid at Fulham, Paulinho?
Paulinho would be a great shout. But honestly, he's still going to cost 30 plus. Obviously, United tax is a huge thing as well.
Yeah, as soon as we're in for him. If he was to go, say Villa went in for him or whatever, or Spurs, he probably, 30, 40, well, probably more than 30, because he paid about that for him, didn't they?
There's players out there, though. There's players out there. You've got like Manu
70.
Kone, you've got like Alan Varela from Portugal, from the Argentinian league, not the Portugal league. There's a lot of there's kind of rough diamonds out there. I know United are not the type of club to take.
That's the problem, though, is right. And I've had this discussion with Joe, and it's like, because everyone goes, why don't we do what Brighton do, or what
can't do that
Leicester do, or whatever they used to? I know they struggled lately, but the thing is, we get a rough diamond, and he comes to Old Trafford
and messes up.
Yeah, that's him done.
Bebe 2.0.
Yeah, like sometimes those rough diamonds need to go a Brighton or a Leicester or
to
a
prove
Fulham
themselves,
to get that Premier League experience, prove themselves, and then they're ready to come to United, because it's quite difficult to go from like sort of the South American league, no disrespect to it, or playing in a top 10 team in Europe to Manchester United. It can be done, but
I honestly wonder whether
it can be difficult.
I wonder whether people in the comments would agree with that, though. Like, when you're looking at the likes of Moises Caicedo, who was linked to us even probably from holidays.
Carl Anker was on there saying that we were put off by the third party ownership, and there was a lot of I think he said there was a lot of sort of hoops to jump through to get him the deal done, because he had a complicated ownership, because he'd signed these deals or whatever. But Brighton did that. They took the time and went, right, we're going to make this deal work. Did their own work, made it happen, and now they've got a player who,
he's probably worth 70 mil when he would have been worth around 5-10 mil at the time.
It's so stupid.
But is the United factor a different thing? Because going to play for United and going to play for Brighton is huge, and sometimes players need that development step. Because I thought Caicedo could have come to United straight from where he came from, and you got the weight of the shirt playing for United. You got the pressure, you got the expectation, you got the scrutiny that comes with it. You have a club that was quite disjointed and in kind of transition at the time.
Yeah.
Would he have been as good? Would he have thrived as much? Would he? That's
No, would he have progressed?
Yeah, would he have progressed? Do you know what I mean?
It's like Bellingham.
Because
everyone goes, why don't we get Bellingham when he's with Birmingham? He wouldn't have gone in the team. I'm not saying I wouldn't have had him. Of course I would have. But he just sat on the bench.
What's the last player? Can anyone name the last player Manchester United have progressed and improved after signing or from young? That is damning, because that is a thing where I can't think of anyone.
No, I agree.
It's
like progressed and improved. I'm going back to Fergie days already, because I think post Fergie, forget it. I don't think there's anyone.
Then you got to look into
like Bruno. Obviously, his numbers went ridiculous when he got to United, but I wouldn't say we improved him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
he went from being a player who was obviously good and productive at Sporting, but his numbers were stratospheric when he arrived.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't look at us and go, we found an untapped gem and moulded him or polished him into a great player. I think he just came in at the ground running and was on it. But I mean, even that's, and he was in his mid-20s. Like, you're looking at someone who's actually young, come in and kicked on. Some of them have gone backwards. Do you know what I mean?
I think regression is more common.
Yeah,
it's more of a common factor than that.
You look at some of the players we've signed, and they've just, Lukaku, for example. He finished. I think he got 17 goals in his last season. 17 league goals in his last season at Everton. I think he got about the same for us. So he didn't get any better. He just sort of plateaued a little bit and then got worse, and then went obviously to Inter and improved.
Exactly. So that's why
I'll put that to the. You've asked the question, and I'll get into some more of the chats. Diogo Delo says 1 FBM. Shaw says Abinam Verma. Fallen says Brian Casey. Wan-Bissaka also says Abinam Verma. Sam Strand says greetings from Las Vegas, Jay and Ronnie. Yeah, Steve 9893 says Rashford, but we didn't buy him. JR says
but Rashford still counts because it's about improving and progressing the player. Rashford did get better, but are people just forgetting about the 2.5 years where he basically went into a... Do you know what I mean? And
I don't think we handled him well.
Exactly. And
if you look at how not to handle a young player, that's probably what we did with Marcus Rashford. Play him out of position, start him, drop him, have him spells where he's just coming on for the last 5 minutes, then have him spells where he's starting a few games, play him all over the gaff, play him when he's injured, become over-reliant on him, where he's like, all of a sudden he's carrying a burden of, you expect him to do things. You go down the road and look at what City did with Foden. Even now what they're doing with him when he wants to rest him. You couldn't have handled a youngster much better suited for the youngster himself than the way they did.
Yeah, exactly.
Foden was getting like 5-minute cameos for about 2 years.
I know it's people are putting in the comments Garnacho, Wan-Bissaka, Shaw. Have any of those players that you've named, is that improvement been actual cemented and sustained? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Luke Shaw is one that's had periods of being the best left back in Europe and then had periods of being absolutely awful, and he's had that fluctuating consistency. Wan-Bissaka about 6, 7, 8 months ago was wanted basically to be sold by 90% of the fan base because he wouldn't fit into Ten Hag's inverted full-backs and kind of technical progressive right-backs that he wanted. So I don't know if that one has been long enough. Obviously, he's shown improvement lately, but is it been sustained? Is he going to be like this in about 6 months? Is he going to be like this in 12 months? Is my thing. Rashford had that fluctuating consistency as well. He had 2 years of being quite bad, and then this season he's been world class. Will he continue being that again next season? And then you've got Garnacho, who's basically been a first team player for about a year now. Is he going to keep progressing and keep going because he's nowhere near his ceiling yet? So I think a lot of these players that you've mentioned, a lot of it's been short term, and we've got to see it for longer periods of time. I'm talking about United bringing a player in under the age of 23, or having a player under the age of 23, and then constantly proving year in, year out, and fulfilling their potential or hitting their ceiling. That's what I'm struggling to see often with players that come to United. Often when we sign players, they either show spurts or they regress or they don't progress enough.
No, going back to the... Sorry, I mentioned...
That's due to environment.
I mentioned Lukaku. Actually, he got 26 goals in 39 games in all appearances last season at Everton. 25 of them were in the league. 16 in the league for us. 27 in all comps. But that was all fits and starts. I remember him scoring 9 in his first 10 games and then going 8 games, or the next 9 games he got 1. Do you know what I mean? And none against the top 6. So people saying Shaw, I think as well, there's a part of me that thinks if you buy an 18-year-old who's been playing in the Premier League, there's a lot of expectation anyway. He's obviously a very good player to get that move. And like you say, it's all been fits and starts. Garnacho, very good, talented youngster, doing well so far, but it's early doors.
Yeah, it's early doors.
Like, I could have had this same conversation now about Garnacho.
With Januzaj.
Yeah, you've nailed it. Now, I think Garnacho will be a success, but, you know, Januzaj, 2 on his debut, I think it was, against Sunderland or around his debut. Everyone was chanting his name. He looked like he was going to be the next big thing. Everyone was loving him in a terrible season under David Moyes. He was one of the bright sparks. And he just didn't kick on. To a lesser degree, you can argue about Elanga. Everyone was singing Rhythm is Anthony Elanga. Do you know what I mean? Scoring goals from everywhere. Like, and I'm not trying to have a dig at the kid because it's not his fault, but overplayed, not handled in the right way, and now he barely gets a game. When he does, he just doesn't look like scoring. It's just, and that was a player everyone was going, that could be the next big thing for us. So youngsters coming through, it's been a bit patchy. Signings, forget it. Like, Wan-Bissaka's not a bad shout in terms of what the expectation was. A good young player, had a very good season at Palace, started really well at United, but then he's had patches as well, hasn't he? He's not had a consistent. He's had a up down sort of thing, and he's on a bit of an up.
So this is why we need.
It's not all been sunshine and rainbows.
This is why we need this. The Glazer's gone.
Yep, 100%.
The Glazer's gone for starters, and a little bit of a clear out and a rejig at the top of the football club with stuff like this, because then we can maybe see a difference, because I think they're a huge part of the problem. And then you obviously had people like Ed Woodward who would give probably too high.
Reckless club, that man.
Yeah, because he would give. I think he would give too high of wages to certain players at the wrong times, and then when we're talking about improvement, we can't blame the club alone. Sometimes I think players become to Manchester United. It's probably one of the pinnacles of the clubs you can play for. Probably only one possibly higher is Real Madrid. And then you get a lot of money and you get a certain lifestyle where you might lose that little bit of a hunger to improve anyway.
It's mad, isn't it? Because even like ones that you think, this is like Martial.
Yeah.
Like, absolute superstar. Everyone was raving about him. We got him from Monaco.
Yeah.
Starts really well. Very good first season. Has he kicked on the way we thought he was going to? No. He hasn't. Like, he's had 3 seasons now, if this one continues in the way it is, where he's going to have, I think, probably less than 10 league goals. Probably, I think, less than, like, a couple of seasons, like less than 6. I think it was 5 and 1 or something. So we had that one season where he scored 23 goals, but he hasn't kicked on, considering how good he was at 18. And I think a lot of that is obviously changing the managers, changing the systems, just either constantly playing him or dropping at the wrong time. There's no sort of rhyme or reason to it. Matt G says, Minen, how do you pronounce that? The kid at AC Milan, the goalkeeper.
If they miss Champions League.
Sorry?
If they miss it.
Yeah, at AC Milan, if they miss Champions League. Is it Magnan? And my pronunciation's terrible. Is it Magnan, the keeper at AC? That's from Matt G. Little Yo-Yo says, always makes you wonder what if with Mason, but that's a different story, innit? Completely on what's going on here. The few people Mason mentions Greenwood, but you know what's going on with him, but we don't know what's going on with him. But I'd be surprised if we see him for United again. I don't know. I just think I think there was reports the other day that he doesn't think he's going to play for United again as well. So that tells its own story. Yeah. Mike 93 has been a member of the first team for 20 months. Says, problem we have is when we do have a youngster, they seem to get an awful lot of pressure on them from either from the media or from the fan base. There is pressure, but there's pressure playing for Manchester United, and I understand your point, but
two phrases, aren't they? Pressure's either what, burst pipes or make diamonds. Too often or not, more often than not, actually at United, it's the latter, which is the problem. But I don't know. I think you've got to see it as there's a lot of pressure, but that just comes with the territory of playing for United. And if you kind of wither with that pressure and you don't improve, that just means you haven't really got the minerals for it. Because some people may argue that could be the case with Jadon Sancho at the moment, where the shirt is very heavy at Manchester United.
See, even like Sancho, I still think there's an element of it's been a little bit underwhelming. I don't want to keep digging out Sanchez because I feel like I've spoken about him a lot, and I do like him. And he had a very good game against Spurs, and I thought we saw some good moments against Villa as well. And I think part of it, someone's just mentioned there. I think Mike. I don't always agree with the point that it's the media and the fans, but I think there was a bit of that with Sancho. It's because we chased him for so long. Everyone thought he was just going to come in and be the new Ronaldo or whatever. But he hasn't quite, for me, lived up to expectations yet.
He's probably one of the main ones that we're looking at in terms of talking about players that have come in and kind of hit their heights and ceiling, because we've not seen the Dortmund version of him.
It's been linked with a move back to Dortmund, hasn't it?
Yeah, maybe he fits there.
So when I say linked, I don't think it's anyone like David Ornstein or anyone doing the linking, but I think there's a report in Bild, Germany, saying that Dortmund are interested in buying back. We'll have to wait and see what happens on that front. It might be the case that Erik ten Hag doesn't fancy him long term because he didn't buy him, but we'll have to wait and see. Ross Murphy, who's been a member of the academy for 31 months, says, I feel like Tottenham are going through the same cycle, group of players from different managers, different systems, and they want their owner out. Yeah, Spurs are just having one out there. Make sure you are hitting the like button and the share button if you've not done already. We'll talk about referees, right? Because obviously we've got it on the thumbnail about Casemiro being done a little bit dirty. I feel like we've seen decisions go in other decisions in other matches or incidents in other matches similar to the one Casemiro got his red cards for that haven't resulted in red cards. Do you think he has been unfairly treated, Casemiro, or do you think there's a bit of he needs to be a bit smarter when he's getting involved in certain things?
I think there's a combination of the two in it. But,
yeah.
Recently, what's worried me about Casemiro is I think he lunges into a lot of challenges, especially late in games, when his legs go a little bit.
Did you see it in the semi-final against Brighton?
Yeah.
Did you see that last chat like that when the guy was away and he's on a yellow and he missed him completely? But if he caught him, that's 100% is a second yellow and it's a red.
When I used to play, coaches used to say people that give a lot of fouls away, or they slide in, or they dive in a lot of the time, sometimes it can look as if they're being aggressive or they're working hard. McTominay used to be bad for this as well. But actually, a lot of the time, it's just lazy defending. It takes a lot more energy to kind of to get there quickly, but then also jockey and obviously to kind of defend properly. It's easy just to lunge in and dive in.
Yeah.
So sometimes I look at it, especially I was looking at the weekend, there's times where in the last 20 minutes of the game where you could argue it could be a tactical foul, but sometimes Casemiro just dives in, and I think sometimes he does it because he's tired and he can't just, he feels like he just got to and do something. You just got to do something. Sometimes it comes off, sometimes it doesn't, but
that's why I think Rio gets a little bit underrated as a defender.
Yeah.
You know, like people compare him to Vidic or to John Terry or whatever. Because Rio rarely was that last-ditch tackle guy. Do you know what I mean? He'd keep up with the players and just take the ball off them, do you know what I mean? Do a standing tackle. And I think people like that sort of blood and thunder, diving in. Everyone's like, oh, mate. Yeah,
oh, man, look at him.
Sick.
But nah, like I feel like anyone can just run and dive in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like he needs to stand up a little bit more in certain, because we do need him and he is very important to the team. But
it's good. Someone's making the point about Martinez does it, but I think Martinez certainly gets his timings a little bit better.
I think Martinez is used to getting away with it because he's of his height, I reckon.
Yeah.
There's a bit of that. You get that in basketball as well, where if a smaller player is defending a bigger defender, they get away with a little bit more physicality without being a foul. And I think Martinez gets the same thing when he's up against strikers. He's allowed to be a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more rough because of the height difference. Whereas if he was 6'4" doing it, you'd be sending players flying.
Yeah, if you send little strikers flying
clumsy,
or whatever, or little wingers, inverted wingers flying. Jamie Stanley says it's the consistency that's the problems with refs and red cards. I agree. I think that's the annoying thing. You know when you say like you're at the game or you're watching at home or whatever and you go like it's gone to VAR, and you think why is that gone to VAR and not that one? Do you know what I mean? That was the issue I had with some of the stuff that's gone on with Casemiro, because both times it's been VAR that had given his red card. And
it's true. And the thing is with Casemiro getting his reds is going to work against him. He came to Manchester United with a reputation anyway, which was interesting because his disciplinary record at Real Madrid is a lot better than people thought.
Yeah.
I think people just had a little bit of a perception of him being a reckless red card hothead, but he was actually a lot more savvy than that. He didn't get sent off too much, and he didn't get as many bookings as you thought as well.
Yeah.
But when you do get sent off a couple of times, you build a rep, and then referees like keep that a little bit in their subconscious, and that can work against them.
No, I agree.
So when there's decisions that are 50-50 with Casemiro, with the kind of the little scuffles or a tackle that might be a little bit late or loose, I think referees are gonna probably pick the sending off side because he's done it before. Rather than someone like a Jota or a Grealish, referees aren't really going to perceive them as being the kind of blood and thunder, rough, rugged kind of player that Casemiro is, who's capable of a bit of shithousery. So he's almost gonna get punished for that. It shouldn't be like that, and it's obviously not fair because it obviously hasn't been fair. But not many things in life is, and that's just what it comes down to.
Very profound, Ronaldo.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, not many things in life are fair. Abhinav Verma says Vinicius took 4 years to click fully at Madrid. Stones took 4 years at City. We need a plan in recruitment so that players we recruit fit a plan. It's true that not everyone just comes in and smashes it straight away, but other clubs seem to have that ability to just sort of, bide their time with players or bring them in gradually, or wait and see what happens with them. Where at United, it's that instantaneous sort of thing where if you've not hit the ground running, then we're done with you. I'll just be going to move on quickly. The protest, the sort of green and gold protest, or green and gold smoke filling the air. At the weekend, 1958 organised a protest ahead of the Villa game, and then I was down there myself, everyone in the tunnel, and then went into the game 80 minutes after kick-off to sort of protest against the 18 years of Glazer ownership, and also the idea that, promote the idea, I should say, that you want a full sale rather than a partial sale, and we want to see the Glazers gone. So well done to everyone who's involved in that, because I think it was a big success in terms of getting the message across. And there's a lot of people there when I was there. There was thousands of people there, I think, anyway. I know some the media were downplaying it a little bit, but it seemed like a pretty well-attended protest to me. Just changing tack slightly. Graham Souness is leaving Sky Sports. Are you a Souness fan?
No.
With your Liverpool connections, are you kindred spirits?
Nope. I'm not a Souness fan. If you're a Manchester United fan, there is no way that you can like Graham Souness.
I don't think you can. I think he's one of the, if not, worst pundits on there. for the comments he makes about United. And other comments, not just United as well. Like, the Pogba obsession became a thing, didn't it? Like, he obviously didn't rate Paul Pogba. And it became so obvious and so obsessive that
he says
comical.
There could be times that Graham Souness will say stuff that might make sense or could be correct, but he just doesn't ever really project that way, especially if you don't like him, you're a United fan, because his just whole body language and demeanour and the way he comes across just seems a little bit bit grimy almost. I don't know if I can say a bit senile.
Yeah, well, you can say that. Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, he's very, like, I think the kind way of saying it, old school.
Yeah.
But I also feel that I think Roy Keane can do that, but does it better?
I think he's a budget. He's a less likeable version.
I don't think you need him and Keane on there. I feel like they're both similar. Old school type. I know Keane's a bit younger, but old school type midfielders who've been in management who, demand sort of energy and effort and that sort of thing from players, and are very sort of critical. And I just feel like with Keane as well, Keane can have a bit of a sense of humour around it. Yeah. I don't really see that with Graham Souness. He hasn't really got a sense of humour. We've got some of his worst ones, he said. The worst, like the Pogba thing, was was obsessive and just odd. Then there was this time he stuck up for the Glazers. Remember when him and Gary Neville were going at it? When he said he can't say the Glazers have been bad for United or whatever he said. It's just nonsense. De Zerbi criticism. He criticised De Zerbi for having, I think, 9 clubs in however many years, when Souness himself had managed that similar amount of clubs in as many years, and obviously De Zerbi's done well. On the Kurt Zouma cat kicking thing, he said, for me, just looking at it, that cat hadn't done anything wrong, which was a bizarre thing to say about someone volleying the cat across the kitchen. Like, that's the issue. What had the cat done? Where's the cat in all
of this? He basically wanted to find out whether the cat did anything wrong first, and then it would have been all right if Zuma booed.
Yeah, well, the cat, to be fair, the cat's been niggling at him all game. You got sooner or later he was going to snap. But what are you on about, man? He just talks such nonsense. There was a positive, though. We were looking at this. There was a time when he stuck up for a LGBTQ community and spoke about the need for more players or hope that more players would come out who were gay. So he's not been a complete horrible, terrible person, but he's
got a bit of open-mindedness.
Yeah, even though it did take him, I think he admitted it was like a year ago or whatever when he started being a bit more open-minded, which is slightly disconcerting. But like what he's been for the last sort of 40 years or whatever. But I won't miss him. And I don't think many, like you said, I don't like to speak on behalf of United fans, but what I gather from seeing social media, I don't think there's many United fans that will.
Listen, who's upset that Graham Soon has left Sky Sports? Put yes or no in the comments.
Jeff Stelling's going as well, isn't it? I think Sky Sports is, I don't know, man, especially on the daytime coverage when it's not the match day. I feel it's losing it a bit. Do you know what I mean?
I think
we've seen
the same with Martin Tyler though.
Oh mate, he does
in commentary.
Yeah,
like the way he commentates now compared to 10 years ago, it's like you can tell his heart's not fully in it anymore.
Yeah. He's like, it just feels like a bit like jobs for the boys, a bit old school. When now and again, when I'm at home on a Saturday and I watch, like, I'll flick through and you put Soccer Saturday, whatever it's called, on Sky, and you got like Tim Shearer, you got Paul Merson, and you got, Stelling's all right, but it just feels a bit like they've not done the homework. They don't know about the teams that they're commenting on. There's no insight. There's no, that player, he's a good player, or, you know what I mean? I saw him the other week. And
it's just, usually, it's like what you get with Souness is he's not good, or don't, because he's not played in the Premier League before.
Yeah, that's the sort of Sky ethos seems to be that. And it's like, they'll say things like, oh yeah, who's he played against? Or where's he been? He's been in the league for the last 10 years. What's he been doing there? What's he been doing there? Playing against some of the best players in the world. What's he on about? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, if he's been in the Championship, they'll love him. Oh, it's a tough league to get out of. Like, he's a good lad and all that nonsense. On BT, and I'm not advocating for BT, I know we've worked in the past, but I ain't got dog in the fight. It does seem to be a bit more like the show is a bit more modern when they do their not just the match day coverage. I think sometimes some of their pundits are a bit hit and miss, like Michael Owen. But when they do like their version of Soccer Saturday, it's a lot more entertaining and there's a bit more varied, and they seem to, they have more people on the panel, and it's not just the same old faces. So I think that for me, Sky needs to get with the times a little bit, and I know they are trying to do that, but I think they can do it a little bit more. Give us your Wally of the week, please, Ronaldo.
Wally of the week.
Yeah, man.
I'm going to give it to Van Dijk.
Van Dijk. Someone was mentioning he got put on his backside, didn't he? Because
obviously the Vidic comparisons pissed me off anyway, but seeing him get absolutely twisted up, slipped and put on his arse by Perisic, icing on the cake for me. So I'll give Wally of the week to Mr. Casual Sideward Jockey Virgil van Dijk.
Nice. Brian Casey says Sir Jim Ratcliffe for his takeover proposal. We'll see what happens with that, man. I don't want to see the Glazers staying though, and I'll tell you what, that's not going to go down too well if that is the case. I feel to say Lucas Moura. Like, what are you doing, son? Like, I don't like sticking.
You give it to your fellow Baldy.
I know, man. Listen, I'm sorry, Lucas, because us Baldies should stay together, yeah. But
could say he's a button heads.
Do you know what I mean? But like, that was, I don't know, man. Part of me feels like Ryan Mason has to take some responsibility, because didn't he put him on and put him at wing back? I think that's a bit.
Put him on, but he didn't tell him to go and do that.
Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm being kind, but Lucas Moura, man, what were you doing? Like, why did he just played in Jota? I don't even know what he was trying to do.
I don't know whether that was a draw. Probably would have been a better result, but at first I thought it was a good result because I didn't think about Liverpool being able to catch us. Spurs were done,
and I don't think Liverpool can catch us, but it would have been. That is 100% no chance.
Spurs.
They could do. I think it's still difficult. They've been on a run. The thing with Liverpool, right? They've looked vulnerable, but been getting wins.
Yeah.
They keep doing it. They did it. Was it West Ham the other night, and then they've done it again. So they keep getting these results.
They get a lot of VAR help though.
Yeah, of course they do.
Liverpool is in full effect. I don't think I've ever seen a VAR decision go against them, to be honest with you.
No, they do get the rubber to green with that. And then they moan as well. Let's have a look at the table here. So you've got Liverpool up to 5th. They've played one more game than us, and we're 7 points ahead of them. So our last 6 games,
Spurs are done. Then it's whether they catch us or Newcastle.
Yeah.
Shit. We've got to start looking over our shoulder a little bit.
Like, there's 7 points between us, and we've got a game in hand. I think
playing Brighton.
If we beat Brighton away, that's done. That is, I mean, I think it's pretty much done anyway. Because we'd have to lose, out of our last 6 games, we'd have to lose 3 of them, I think. Or 4 of them, sorry. We'd have to lose 4 of the last 6 games.
Yeah.
So that would be form that we've never seen this season.
Nah.
Do you know what I mean? I know we've got injuries and whatnot.
Surely not.
But that would be... And also, Liverpool could win the next 5 games. It's doable for them, but... Also, they could drop points, and I think if they drop any points, that's
yeah. I feel like they've got to be flawless for the rest of it.
Yeah, so I'd be very, very surprised if us or Newcastle, who we could go above Newcastle to be fair with our game in hand, but both us and Newcastle in strong position. Arsenal, they're done out in that title race. Arsenal are 1 point behind City, having played
Chelsea
a game
might
more.
legit finish in the bottom half.
I mean, that's mental, isn't it? Chelsea in 12th. Who'd have thunk it after the amount of money they've spent? Yep, I'm going to wrap it up there. Listen, Ronaldo, where can people find you? What you up to?
Ronaldo Brown _98 on the Bird app on Twitter.
Go and check him out, and hopefully we'll be back soon with a tier 1, man. We need to get that back going. You know where to find me as well. I'll be back later on, actually. I think I'll be, me and Scotty, my boy David Scott, will be doing Scotty and Motty. We were at his book launch the other day. Go and check out his book. It's out soon. Also, put a link there. We've got a little Patreon going on. Scotty and Motty. So if you're not subscribed to that, go and have a look at that. Make sure you go and follow Ronaldo Brown on his socials. Make sure as well you are hitting like, share, and subscribe to Stretford Paddock. Thanks for everyone who got involved in the chat and the comments. Hang on a minute. I think there was a little bit late one there. Mark Hatton, I think he's become a member of the academy. Been a member of the Academy for 29 months. He says, let's not forget Souness, absolute best bit of punditry, calling Casemiro a steady.
Yeah.
How could we forget? On that bombshell, we'll leave it there. That's been Ronaldo. I've been Jay. This has been the Paddock Podcast. Thanks for watching.